eighth session of Connect with Chamber, whereby we are bringing you experts in various fields to come and talk to members about how they can interact and learn and grow during this time of lockdown. So briefly, just some Zoom etiquette. If you can please have everyone muted with your videos off at the moment. And then what will happen is, if you have a question, please share the question in the chat box, and then we'll ask George to answer the questions. We'll have a Q&A session at the end where you'll be able to answer questions. So for colleagues who don't know, my name is Drayton Brown. I am the project manager here at the Border-Kei Chamber of Business for the Invest Facilitation initiative. However, more importantly, our guest today is George Makore from the South African Trade and Investment Hub, where he's the Deputy Chief of Partnership. So I'd just like to have a warm welcome to you, George, and hand over to you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I wish we were meeting under a lot better circumstances. We are going through at the moment the COVID challenge, which I'm sure is affecting each one of us one way or the other. But we South Africans, we are known to be resilient. Africans are known to be resilient, and I hope that we will see this through. I've been asked to share with you what the hub does, the USAID Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub does, and how we work with companies across the region, including South Africa, to assist in terms of accessing US markets, or to access the US market under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, popularly known as AGOA. And I will try and do justice to that as much as I can. If you allow me, I can share my screen with you and the presentation that I would like to take us through today on this discussion. I've been allowed, I've been told that I have about an hour for this, and I hope that I'll be able to quickly go through the presentation so that we'll leave a lot more time for discussions and questions. So the talk that I have here, what I thought I could share with you, I'm going to talk briefly about the USAID Trade Hub in short, and we are called in full USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub, just who we are and what our strategic objectives are. I will then also touch on the an overview, a brief overview of AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. I will take you through what the benefits are to South Africa. Also have a brief discussion on what is it that the hub or the trade hub promotes under AGOA as exports to the US from South Africa and other countries that we work in. And then I will touch on some of the products that are currently in demand in the US under the AGOA program, and then share with you some of the things that we need all to know when we're dealing with the US market. Now, the Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub has been in existence since October 2016. Let me highlight that we are a project funded by USAID So we are running this program on behalf of USAID. And this project is due or scheduled to end in September 2021. Our year starts in September, and it starts in October and ends in September. So the project is now going into its final year, come October this year. So we are now left with slightly over 1 year of operation as a project. And we take that that aspect into cognizance. So most of our activities that we are currently running, we always look over our shoulder to make sure that we have created opportunities and structures that will enable you to continue to operate even after the project has ended. So we're already looking at exit strategies. And one such exit strategy is working closely with what we call trade and investment promotion agencies and business membership organizations to ensure that they are able to then continue to run with some of the activities that we are assisting with at the moment. That said, this project is a fourth generation of the economic growth assistance to Southern Africa. So this is the fourth hub that the USAID has been running in the region. And the hubs started way back, I think, in 2002. So we have had a few hubs in the past. The current hub is based in Pretoria, where I am seated. And we do have another office in Zambia and presence in the countries that we operate in. That is Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, former Swaziland, Mozambique, and Malawi. We are, however, as a project, authorized, or we are allowed to work in other countries other than the ones that I've just mentioned. These are Angola, DRC, and Zimbabwe. But at the moment, we don't have any activities in those countries. Now, that's the background on the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub. But what is it that we aim to do? What are we mandated to do by USAID? Our first objective is to look at products in countries that we focus in, and I mentioned those countries as highlighted in this slide. That is the outside South Africa. We're looking at Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, and Malawi. So we look at companies in those countries that have products that are demanded in South Africa, and we help those companies to export products to meet the demand in South Africa. That's one objective, our first objective. Our second objective is more of a reverse of that, which is where we are looking at companies from South Africa that have interest to invest in those countries that I've just mentioned. And we're talking about capital and technology transfer here. And we then link up those companies or those potential investors with potential investees in the countries that I've just mentioned. The idea really is to then see the countries that are exporting or would like to export to South Africa being able to do that. Then our third objective, which is, I guess, why we are all here, is we work with the 8 countries. So I'm talking about the 7 countries plus South Africa, and look at products that these companies in these countries can export to the US under the African Growth and Opportunity Act program. I will explain more what that program does and what it is that we can benefit from that program. So that's our third objective. And we have a fourth objective, which is mainly just for Zambia. And this is because there is a buy-in arrangement where USAID Zambia provided some funding to the trader to then assist them in terms of working on improving the Zambia trade enabling environment. So that's our fourth objective. Now, looking at what AGOA is all about, and I think a lot of us have heard about AGOA, and AGOA has been in existence since May 2000. So we are now getting to almost 20 years of AGOA. Now, the AGOA program itself is a non-reciprocal unilateral trade preference program that accords duty-free treatment to US imports. So what we are saying here is it's a program that is offered to sub-Saharan Africa by the US government to say you can actually export products that are covered under that program to the US without paying duty. So that's what it is all about. And these products up to 6,400 product lines that can actually be covered under this duty-free program. So any of those products that fall under that, if you're going to get a market in the US, you can actually land your products in the US without being charged duty. And the program, like I said, since it has been in existence since 2000, it was actually extended in 2015 when it expired for another 10 years at that time, and is now due to expire in September 2025. So at the moment, we are left with about 5 years before the program ends. The question that you might ask is, what happens after that? At the moment, we're not sure what is going to happen, but there are a lot of potential possibilities and permutations on what is likely to happen. But those announcements will be made once they have been finalized. What I want to urge you to do is we need to take advantage of this program at the moment, and I would say that let's work as if it's not going to be extended, and make sure that if it doesn't get extended, we have put ourselves in a position where we can still be able to do business with the US without the duty-free treatment. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that try and use this opportunity to establish networks and get your foot into the door, so to speak, to make sure that even without the program, when it ends, you can still be able to continue with those relationships going forward. Today, as we speak, the program, which is extended to over 49 countries, sub-Saharan African countries, only 39 countries are eligible to access this duty-free preference program. The reason being that whilst we have 49 countries that are in sub-Saharan Africa that are all eligible, they still have to, the countries have to still meet an eligibility criteria to have access, or for their country firms to have access to the market. So that's the background to that. Now, what are the benefits for South Africa when it comes to this program? I mentioned that there are 6,400 duty-free eligible products under the program. Almost 700 or over 700 of these products are actually agriculture related. And why do I mention that? The reason why I mentioned this is because most of the countries that are covered by the AGOA program, their economy is actually agriculturally based. And to a great extent, South Africa also have a great agriculture base. And so we can look at most of those products that you produce or that are produced through agriculture as being eligible to go into the US duty-free. Now, the other advantage obviously is the tax exemption, the duty or tariff exemption. What it means that because your product is now going to be going, the product that is duty free is going to get to the US without being charged duty, it can actually compete against products from countries that are actually charged duty. So your product will get to the market at a lesser cost in terms of versus products that are coming from countries that are not covered by this AGOA program. And AGOA eligibility also allows for related trade capacity building support from US government agencies. And one of such is our role in assisting companies and countries that would want to export, that are AGOA eligible, that would want to export to the US under this program. Also, related, the other side of AGOA is not only exports to the US, it's also facilitating investment from the US into the countries that are AGOA eligible, such as South Africa. So there is actually, because of AGOA, there is a potential for increased foreign direct investment and export growth when we look at the program that we are talking about here. There is also increased utilization of increased job opportunities if we increase utilization of AGOA. So the jobs the investment that might come into the country, the exports that we do can lead to more demand, which can lead to more jobs because of increased utilization of the program. And finally, one of the benefits is exposure to the US markets under the scheme creates relationships which might continue after the program. Like I mentioned earlier, let's take advantage of this program while it is running, so that we create those relationships that we can actually continue to take advantage of even after the program. Now, having said that, what are some of the products that the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub cover or promote under the AGOA program? As you can see from this slide here, we've tried to highlight some of the products that we are covering. And looking at South Africa, the products that we have actually to date been assisting companies with to export to the US, textiles and clothing, and what we call fruit nuts, tree nuts, which are basically, in this case, the main one being macadamia nuts. We also have a lot of other nuts, dried nuts that we can that we know are demanded in the US, as well as dried fruits. There is also culinary oil, which includes olive oil and other oils. That also is, you find that there is demand for that in the US. And the Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub has helped in the past, and we continue to help to find markets for that. Beverages, we also have confectionaries, and like I mentioned earlier, dried fruits. Now, please note that this list here is not exhaustive. It's just a list of those that we have of late been promoting, and in terms of getting demand from the US and then trying to find suppliers from the region. As we speak right now, we do have a buyer in the US who is looking for chickpeas, large quantities of chickpeas. So whilst it's not here, that particular product, there could be a lot of other products. And remember, I said we're looking at 6,000 product lines, 6,400. So there are quite a number of different products that we can actually assist to find markets for in the US. Now, how do we help exporters? What support do we provide to exporters who are interested in exporting to the US? We have different types of assistance, and please note that this assistance also includes when things were normal. So we're looking at when things were normal, we would provide the following assistance, starting with trade shows. We have facilitated a number of companies from South Africa to attend selected trade shows in the US, including the Institute of Food Technologists show which is normally held in New Orleans. Summer Face Food Show, a number of companies from South Africa have actually had the opportunity to attend or to exhibit in New York or at the Summer Face Food Show starting from way back in 2017. And a number of them have actually gotten into or managed to meet buyers that have led to a number of deals. Let me add that the trade shows, as we speak, have now been replaced by virtual webinars. We are currently having a lot of webinars with targeted organizations and buyers in the US, where we try and still expose or get buyers from the region to meet with, exporters from the region to meet with buyers in the US through webinars. We've held, since I think the COVID restrictions started, we have held probably getting to 6 webinars that we have held with different potential buyers as well as organizations that we are partnering with in the US. To make sure that we continue to have this opportunity or provide this opportunity to potential exhibitors and exporters. We also assist with standard or compliance with standards. So we provide support. I know a lot of one of the main challenges that our exporters from the region, South Africa included, tend to face is the issue of complying or meeting US market entry requirements. And the US market entry requirements in this case are mainly to do with aspects such as SPS requirements, sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, food safety related requirements, and management system and other related system certifications. And we do assist companies in getting to comply with that. We also have in the past assisted companies with factory assessments to make sure that we get the factories in the region to meet or to comply with potential clients' requirements or requirements from potential clients in the US. The reason why we're talking today is one way we also assist companies in the region to have the necessary awareness on topics that will be of interest, particularly the increased utilization of AGOA. And also for those that are in textiles and apparel, one requirement is for you to meet with REP certification or worldwide responsibility accredited production requirements. And we do assist in that area. On export linkage facilitation, we organize international buyers. I've mentioned that we have now migrated to using virtual meetings, which also play the same role of getting buyers to meet, albeit virtually, with potential suppliers, as a way of creating linkages. We also assist in terms of providing guidance on developing sector-specific export strategies in such areas as textiles and clothing or apparel, arts and crafts, handicrafts, and specialty foods. Now, looking at products that are currently in demand in the US, and again, when I say this, please note, these are just some of the products. And as we look at it, this is growing US demand for consumer goods and new technologies that require imported raw materials or intermediate inputs in the US. And on the opportunity side, so I have here the opportunities and the challenges. On the opportunity side, there are opportunities for increased demand on APRA. As we speak, there is a lot of or indicated demand on PPE, personal protective equipment. And the hub is currently working with several South African companies that have indicated capacity and willingness to produce PPE that might actually be demanded in the US. And what we have done on our part is that we have already engaged Registrar Corp, which is a US-based company that helps with getting products approved on behalf of or approved by the US Food and Drug Administration, so that the products, when they are now, you find a market, they will not have problems meeting US regulations. So those are some of the things that we are doing to encourage exports to the US under this. And if there is anyone who's is in that area and they need more details on the PPE scheme, we can actually provide that. The other demanded products or opportunities that are there in the US are on copper and related articles, auto parts, that's vehicle parts, nickel, footwear, and other products. However, the challenges that we have often realized is that for most of the companies, whilst they are able to produce certain quantities, the products that we are able to produce here, or the companies that are able to produce, they sometimes face a challenge with meeting the quantities. For example, I mentioned that we do have a buyer who's looking for large quantities of chickpeas. And what we would then find is that you will have producers here who are only able to produce small quantities versus what will be required. And this is where, I guess, as a chamber, you can then be able to look at how many of your members are able to produce a particular product and get them to combine their efforts to meet a particular order. The other challenge is that we see in the region is that there is low manufacturing productivity, as well as the issue of cost because of transport costs because of distance to market. And those are some of the challenges that are often highlighted by producers or would be exporters. On agricultural imports to into the US, the demand or opportunity is on cocoa and beans and pests, edible nuts, raw cane, sugar, citrus fruits, and cut flowers, among others. But the challenges that we often hear about are that there is a high cost of logistics, stiff competition from suppliers from other countries, even though we are covered by the duty-free aspect of AGOA, we still find sometimes our products will still be not that competitive when they reach the US because of other aspects such as transport and distance to market. There's also a high cost of compliance with standards I mentioned the issue of US market entry requirements being sanitary and phytosanitary requirements and other health and safety certifications. The issue that I mentioned earlier is also on low productivity and high cost of transactional costs. Those are some of the challenges and the opportunities that we find in the when we're dealing with the US market. Now, some of the key aspects for doing business with the US are really, I've broken them down here into two: the issue of market access as well as market acceptance. On market access, products must comply with the technical regulations and conformity assessment measures. I think a lot of you that have tried to deal with the US market, you realize that the issue of labeling, particularly with regards to the coming in of the Food Safety Modernization Act into play since 2011, which is sometimes referred to as FSMA, and in relation to issues on food safety certification, labeling has become a big issue because the US has changed the labeling requirements, and a lot of producers do find challenges when it comes to complying with that. But it's a very critical market entry requirement or market access requirement. There's also the issue of compliance and registration with FDA requirements, custom and border protection requirements, as well as US Department of Agriculture requirements, all of which companies have to be aware of before they actually do trade with the US market. The other important aspects are to do with federal agencies that regulate products entering into the US market. All those aspects are really to do with accessing the US market. On being accepted by the market, there are issues to do with standards at the level of private standards. I'm sure we all know that regulations are at country level, but at the same time, the companies that you deal with or the specific buyer would actually also have their own standards that you need to meet, and in response to demands from their retailers and consumers. So those are things that are very critical when it comes to doing business or trying to get access into the US market. Now, in conclusion, I would want to highlight that as an exporter, there are things that you must do or must know. The very first thing that you must know is your market. Know your market. You need to understand your market so that you can then be able to meet the demands or the expectations of that market. It's also important to spot the market gaps because as I mentioned, one of the drawbacks or challenge that we face is that we don't produce enough products to be able to compete at the mass market level. And in fact, there could be other challenges that can come with that. So if you are able to identify a niche market that you can then provide your product or try and meet, that can actually be a good strategy. So spot the market gaps and try and bridge those gaps with your product. You also need to know your customers. You need to understand what your customers want or what your customers require. That way you'll be able to get access to the market easily. Importantly, you need to know your own production capabilities. The danger that you can face is where you get an order, a huge order, and you get excited and accept the order, and then you turn around and not able to meet that order because you don't have, as a company, the market or the production capabilities. That only doesn't affect, it will not only affect you as a company, it will also affect South Africa as a country. Because if you, one of us is not able to meet an order, the next time that a buyer meets another supplier from South Africa, they will all think that South Africans are the same. So before you make a commitment, you need to make sure that you are clear what the requirements are, so that you don't disappoint the would-be buyer and spoil it for everybody else, the whole country, and even to the extent of the whole region. You also need to understand the rules and regulations that come with the program that we're talking about, the AGOA program. We are there as a hub to provide as much information as possible. We can have a one-on-one with you where you need more information on the AGOA program. And finally, never ever take an order you cannot fulfill. This, like I mentioned earlier, can end up with problems, not only or creating problems, not only for you as a company, but also for the country as a whole. I thought I should also, before I leave or I conclude, share with you some of some key sources that you can go to get information on the program. And please make sure that if you are not clear on anything, you can get in touch with us and we'll be able to help you either through the chamber or through the details that I'm leaving you with here. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thanks, George. Lots of interesting information there. I think maybe if I can just have a first comment, we do have some local PPE manufacturers who are supplying our local market with PPE. So I think we can definitely put you in touch with them to look at that opportunity to scale their current production to export. I did see one question come through on the chat, George, about medicinal cannabis. Do you have any insights on that from an agricultural perspective?
Sorry, come again. What was the question?
Medicinal cannabis.
Okay. There is, I know there has been indicated demand for that. And in fact, a number of countries in the region are actually involved in that. There is also one producer in South Africa who's gone on to produce drinks and other beverages from that. Unfortunately, as a hub, there are certain products that we cannot be involved in promoting based on the mandate that we are given by USAID. And Cannibals is one of them, and related products, as well as alcohol and what other product? So there are certain products that we cannot cover. And unfortunately, at the moment, Cannibals, albeit medicinal, is one of those that we cannot cover. However, if we are able to connect you with anyone we know who will be looking for that, we can actually link you up with such companies, but we are not mandated to cover that product.
No problem. Thanks for that, George. Colleagues, do you have any questions from the floor?
Drayton, may I?
Yes, please go for it, Anthony.
Thanks. That was a great presentation. Thank you, and it's heartening to see the opportunities which are much needed right now in our dire economic situation. So I'd like to know, this refers specifically to products. Is there any program for services, being professional services and outsourcing of some services for American companies? Thanks.
Thanks very much for that question. You are right that AGOA only covers products. It's mainly to do with duty-free preference on products. In terms of services, I'm not sure what specifically services you're referring to, but for the program that we're talking about, which is AGOA, it's only to do with duty-free preference, and then so obviously it covers only products.
Thanks.
Thanks, George. If I may have one more question. I also noticed that you didn't identify beef or any other livestock from South Africa. Was there any rationale behind that one?
Beef is AGOA eligible, but what I didn't mention is that within the products that are AGOA eligible, there are some products that have a quota within. So the duty free is within a quota. Once you surpass that quota, then the duty kicks in. Now, beef, the only country at the moment in the region, or even South Africa, or even Africa, that is approved to export beef to the US is Namibia. It took them close to 9 years to get that approval. So the process is quite intense. But I'm talking about fresh beef. There could be other products that are actually, once they are processed, they don't go through the same type of rigorous system in order for them to be able to gain access into the US. But suffice to say that beef is AGOA eligible within a quota, and beef products are also AGOA eligible.
Thank you, George. We have a question from Audrey Bartos in our Queensland office. Please go ahead, Audrey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's quite informative. I just want to pick on the point that you said, if you know, one of us are exporting and we are obviously now not getting where we should be getting, we will make it difficult for others. But you also spoke about pooling resources to make sure that we actually make the quota. Now, is there a type of monitoring system in place to ensure that these companies that are pulling together, or who is taking charge of that, so that, you know, we don't look bad at the end of the day? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much for that very great question. Obviously, I always use this scenario that 20% of an elephant is bigger than 100% of a mouse. What is critical is when we have this order, we should actually look at who else I can work with to be able to meet the order, so that at the end of the day, we have a win-win. In terms of who is there to control that should be either at a chamber level, or you as the producers themselves, to say who is the person, or what company can I partner with on this. What is critical, of course, is depending on the product that you're looking at. Most of the products that go into the US, once you have gotten a buyer, you would have met the requirements of the market. The buyer would have assessed you to be somebody, or a product, or a company that produces a product that meets the US buyer or market requirements. So obviously, you would then need to look for someone else, or someone who is also meeting those requirements, so that you don't have different. Well, of course, if the product is not meeting those requirements, the product will not be accepted into the US market. So the issue of augmenting or looking at who else you can work with to meet the order, I would think it can be at a chamber level or at an individual level as companies. And where you have business membership organizations, they can also then be able to then work with you on that.
Thank you very much. That was clear.
And then we have another hand, Chris, if you'd like to go now.
Great, thank you very much. So I must say, when I saw citrus as one of the commodities, I had a bit of a laugh. I did my master's thesis on the citrus industry in South Africa and artificial trade barriers. And the US is quite famous for banning South African citrus with black spot and phytosanitary conditions. But I wanted to find out, we've got a solar PV manufacturer that's based in the East London IDZ, and they're looking to access the US market. They've done quite a few studies on where to enter and how to distribute. And then we also do have, like Drayton correctly said, there's a manufacturer of dust masks that's also looking to increase the export base. And I know that the Department of Trade and Industry for a long time has been trying to get the balance of trade correct, because we import a lot more than we export to the US. So could I find out, we do work very closely with the US Embassy here in East London and through the chamber, but is it USAID? Would they actually help not only give us the market intelligence and market access and identify products, but who do we collaborate with and talk to get all the certifications and requirements and standards, and then take it from there? I'm assuming that perhaps USAID would be the starting point.
Thanks very much for that contribution and the question. Yes, starting with the citrus, obviously that was said in the understanding that we would have met the market entry requirements. And I totally agree that there are quite a few of them. But that said, the market is there for products that can actually comply with the market entry requirements. With regards to solar, I'm not so sure whether at the moment I haven't checked whether solar is or solar products are AGOA eligible. They could be. But in terms of general market certifications or required market certifications, I think you can make us your first port of call, and we can then be able to direct you where we are not able to assist. But in most cases, we should be able to provide you the information that you require. Thank you.
Very interesting. Thanks, George, for that, and Chris, for your question. Colleagues, we're sitting on 12:23, and we have 7 minutes left of this meeting set aside. Is there any other further questions?
I see a hand from Chris here. I don't know whether it was.
Please lower your hand, Chris. He asked his question. That was him. All
right.
Yes, sorry.
So on that note then, George, is there anything that you would like to maybe add to conclude? Can we get a copy of this presentation?
Most definitely. We can share the presentation with everyone through you. I'm sure all the participants are registered. You can actually also get us through to us through the chamber. We are always willing to interact with all the potential exporters in South Africa, and we will be continuing to talk to the exporters through you. There is a lot of information that we can do. Free to match information. In addition, we've been running a lot of webinars, and I think I recognized 1 or 2 names here from the webinars that we have organized. We still have a lot of webinars that we continue to organize to try and link potential exporters with potential buyers in the US. One other thing that I need to mention that I forgot to mention is that we currently have a buyer who's looking for somebody who's able to provide men's underwear and men trousers. And if there is anybody who's has the capacity to do that, please get in touch with us. We can link you up with the buyer. Let me thank you very much for allowing us, the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub, this opportunity to share this information with you. Thank you.
No, thank you, George. The colleagues will share the presentation, and if you're looking for further information, please feel free to contact myself, and I will pass on the information to you. Thank you very much for your time. And we, what I'd like to do maybe for the next 2 minutes is ask Sam to share a little bit about next week's Connect with Chamber, and so you can know what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. George, well done. The presentation was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for all the info sharing that you did this morning. Guys, for next week, we'll have Connect with the Chamber session 9. The advert is out on my WhatsApp status. If you'd like it on email, it will come out in a mailer shortly. We are having Robin Evans from MBAT, Training and Skills Development Institute from Port Elizabeth. So she'll be online talking about wellness and behavioral measures on how to cope during COVID. So this will be like post-COVID, during COVID, and how do we manage going forward with COVID. So with that in mind, I hope that everybody on this call will also be on my meeting next week, and we will look to connect then. All right, so we wish you a really safe and warm day. It's really windy here today, and stay out of the wind and indoors. All right, be safe. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.